Hello there, my name is Brandon and I make pictures out of tiny squares. And every year I make a new pixel art sprite of Jedi Luke Skywalker as sort of an ongoing skill check and style evolution exercise. I didn't really devise this when I started pixel art back in 2015. I just kind of happened to notice a few years in that it was a character sprite I kept revisiting, and so it's become kind of a tradition for me now. So my plan for today is to make the 2020 version, and it's the end of December as I'm recording this now, so I'm getting this in kind of just under the wire. So let's get started, and I'll explain my design idea as we go. Alright, my idea for this year's Skywalker sprite is to do something cartoony and fun, and so I'm designing him in the style of the Neo Geo Pocket Color SNK fighting game sprites, which is a style that you may recognize from my Gummy Sprite video back on Halloween. I had a lot of fun exploring that style, and to be honest, learning how to construct the sort of heavily stylized and simplified line work of that style had kind of a profound effect on how I approach my own workflow, even for stuff that doesn't necessarily mimic that style directly. So it feels kind of fitting to me to have this year's Skywalker represent that step in my own learning. After finalizing a head design that was about 18 pixels tall, I planned out the body by spacing out a sprite height of 40 pixels, then worked out the proportions by dropping in a large square for the body, and a few simple angles for the legs. These sprites only use 3 colors, so I'm creating a lot of the design by using cleanly blocked off sections of line work that will either be filled with black, white, or the green color that I've selected to represent him. I pulled up a couple images of Luke to use as reference material, although this sprite is so stylized anyway that it wasn't super critical to work from a reference, but it's kind of nice to have something even just to inspire the hairstyle and other general points of comparison. To finish the sprite off, I added some shine to the boots, and also pulled back the strength of those colors a little bit. I made the green a bit less saturated, and the black and white are a little bit softer with just sort of a very subtle tint of orange applied to them for some warmth. So I like how this is coming along, but I'm not ready to call it yet. I want to play with a bit of animation in this style, and I thought it'd be fun to recreate the little moment from Return of the Jedi where R2-D2 tosses the lightsaber over to Luke. So I'm making a small R2 sprite for that, just kind of eyeballing the size based on the Luke sprite. Again, I've got a couple pictures there to use as points of reference to translate a few details of his design. Obviously, with a small sprite like this, we can't fit every single gadget and panel into the pixel design, so I chose a few of the more prominent details to keep, and by omitting some of the less obvious details, we end up with a really simplified design that fits the stylistic direction. To begin the animation work, I planned out the minimum number of unique poses required for Luke in this sequence. He's going to catch the lightsaber flung over from R2 and ignite it, so he'll start in a neutral stance, then he'll need one for reaching up to catch it, another where he swipes the igniting blade in front of himself, and then the final pose where he's simply holding it, which I've already got. So that's a total of 4 poses to start with. And you can see I've made it easier by just copying over most of the existing sprite, and I'll just make edits on that to make the changes required to fulfill these new poses. The neutral stance is pretty simple because it just requires a new hand that's in kind of a resting but ready position. The reaching sprite was probably the biggest change because I don't want him to just be looking forward. He should turn his head over and up so it looks like he's really trying to make the catch. Even though I guess since he's a Jedi, he could actually just force pull the thing over without looking, but that's beside the point. So you can see I'm just kind of shifting things around to find something that looks like that new angle. For the swipe pose, I'm making a lightsaber smear frame so it looks like he's swiping the blade across in front of him while he's igniting it. So it's a solid shape of that white tone, which I'm then outlining in green just like the steady lightsaber. And it's just kind of a rough shape and curvature for now, but it sort of demonstrates the overall effect that I'm going for. So if we put those 4 frames together to preview where we're going with this, we'll get a basic idea of this animation for now. This is obviously a little bit choppy, so the way to make this into a smoother and more complete animation is to now go in and add frames in between each of those key poses. And for me, this is really where most of the labor in an animation is. There's a lot of comparing back and comparing forward to make sure that the in-between frame is having the desired effect. When I'm making edits to a frame and playing the animation back to myself real quick, I'm usually looking at one body part at a time. Like for example, I might be trying to see if his arm is making a smooth motion, and that there's sort of a conservation of mass and no stray pixels that are going to throw that off. So there can be a lot of experimentation required to find the right fit, and also to find the correct rhythm. In general, for rhythm, if you add more frames, that'll allow you to make more fluid but slower feeling movements, whereas if you keep the frame count low, it'll appear fast and snappy. With the R2 animation, I wanted to find a cartoony way to show him tossing the lightsaber over. So what I'm planning here is having him kind of squash downward, like he's crouching to wind up for the toss. Then when he actually throws it, he stretches tall to convey that there's this transfer of energy upwards. And the lightsaber's going to spin through the air, so I've added a couple motion trails to just make it look like it's spinning like that. Alright, so let's combine all of this together and go ahead and take a look at the final thing. Here we go! Alright, so there we have it. I wanted to point out also that I've created this lightsaber wobble or flicker effect by introducing frames that have jaggy lines rather than perfect angles. So, sometimes you can use jaggies to your advantage for stuff like that. And let's add them to the lineup for the final comparison. It's really interesting to see how I started back in 2015 with these small Mega Man-esque style sprites, and then slowly became confident making larger sprites with maybe more of an attempt in the rendering. And now in recent years, I've been kind of drawn back to this simplified and clean look. And I guess that's kind of the thing with this exercise though, it just provides sort of a little snapshot of what I'm into at the moment. So if you're still early on in your pixel art journey, or actually really just at any point, I definitely recommend trying some kind of exercise like this. It doesn't have to be every year obviously, but even just digging out an old piece and seeing what you can bring to it now, or just a different way you might be able to revisit it, can be kind of a rewarding exercise. So thank you for watching, and take care and keep it square.